Hello and welcome to this week's video. If you've ever wondered how to achieve a traditional fine art look in Procreate, one of the most powerful exercises you can do is a master copy. In this video, I'll show you how to study and paint a classic Anders Zorn artwork in Procreate, breaking it down step by step so you can understand how masters used value, colour and structure, and then apply those ideas to your own paintings. The reference photo is public domain, so I'll put the link of where you can find it in the video description. No two mediums are the same, so whilst we can get very close in Procreate, it will never be an exact match. And that's not the goal here. We're not trying to copy the brushwork stroke for stroke. We're trying to understand the structure of the painting. By doing that, we can take what we've learned here and apply it directly to our own artwork. So let's get started. Brushes. The brushes I have used are in the Procreate library, oils. I have switched between all these brushes throughout the painting. I've also used the wet acrylic, which can be found in the classic library. Layers. To take advantage of the wet effect of these brushes, the whole painting will be done on one layer. Drawing. A simple way to keep your drawing correct throughout this painting is with a drawing guide. Place your reference photo on your top layer, start a new layer and then draw around your shapes. You can then toggle this on and off during the painting process to keep your drawing correct. If you want to practice your drawing, do your guide freehand. Colour picker. The easiest way to select your colour is to use the colour picker. Import your reference photo via Canvas Reference Image. This photo will then sit on your artboard. If you want to know the colour of an area, you can hold your finger on it and the colour picker will select it. However, a word of caution. Often the oil brushes do not paint true, they paint lighter. So you may need to adjust your colours by eye by going a little darker and then perhaps either more saturated or less, depending upon whether you want more colour or more of a muted grey. Also, you'll find in some of the passages where we go from dark to light, it is more effective to use your dark background colours on a low opacity and pull them into your lighter areas than to try and pick up these bridging colours with the colour picker. Blocking. This is the most important part of the painting. I am going to select an average value and average colour of all the large obvious shapes I see and block everything in. You can use a brush like the wet acrylic or platypus to do this. Do not try to paint the detail at this stage. We start broad and we will then add the detail at the end. Once you've done your blocking, it should look a little like this. We will then begin to block in our obvious values. By values, I mean your lights, midtones and darks. Again, don't try and paint the detail. Get your blocks in. Starting with my background first, I got my obvious areas in, then I moved on to the figure, then the dog. If you want to block in the whole thing, you can do that too. There is no right or wrong. Values and drawing are the most important elements to a painting. If your painting looks off, it will likely be that your values are incorrect. So always check these first. The best way is to reduce your artwork and reference photo to the same size on your artboard. Hold your iPad at arm's length and then squint at the images. You will be able to see if you are out on your values this way. Big shapes, small shapes. You need to practice training your eye to see the big shapes and the small shapes and then to be constantly switching between the two throughout the painting. For example, if we take the dress area, notice how we have small shapes that suggest the folds of the fabric, but this is part of the larger shape that is also suggesting the drape of the fabric too. Get the larger shapes in correctly first and then move on to the smaller shapes. If you overwork your smaller shapes, you will find it will read incorrectly and just look off. If this happens, revisit your larger shapes and re-establish these again. Edges. Zorn's painting has been done with some very soft edges. Notice where your edges are hard along the dress and where they are softer. We have to replicate these edges in our own artwork. However, you'll find that these oil brushes tend on the whole to give us harder edges. The Everlasting and the Sandpiper are probably our softer edge brushes in this whole set. So if you are aiming for a soft edge, using something like the Platypus isn't going to work. Hard edges. If you want a hard edge, use one of the blockier brushes like the Lovely, Olive or Platypus. Turn your opacity right up and then just use them as a solid brush. This will give you solid blocks of colour with hard edges. Soft edges. For softer edges, use something like the Sandpiper or Everlasting and turn your opacity down. You will have to experiment with your opacity level quite a bit and be prepared to constantly keep adjusting pretty much with every stroke you add. Remember, the higher the opacity, the harder your edge will be with any brush. The wet acrylic is really great for softening areas where you have gone in a bit too hard. Very often you'll find a brush is limited in what it can do to get the effect you want. You'll need to correct an edge with another brush. Turn the opacity of your wet acrylic down and just go over the areas where you want your brushwork a bit softer. I used the wet acrylic for all the areas of the lady's skin, so the face, chest and arms. Again, you will need to experiment with opacity and use the pressure sensitivity of your pencil too. Colour, temperature. Understanding what you are seeing on Zorn's painting is really important for correct colour selection. Notice on the dress fabric and the dog's fur there is a clear temperature shift from warm to cool. You will see this subtlety throughout the painting. You will also see saturation shifts. In the blue, for example, where there is less colour and then stronger colour. You need to make sure that you include these shifts in your own painting. As I stated earlier, the colour picker may not always pick this up, or the brush you select may not be true, so always be prepared to adjust by eye. Brushwork. As a general rule, you will need to lay a stroke, see how it looks, and then lay another. If it looks wrong, is too heavy, etc., undo and have another go. This painting is multiple strokes of many different transparencies over each other. You will need to be consistently adjusting the size and opacity of your brush. Use Zorn's painting as a guide and then try and adjust your brush settings to achieve this effect. I have really experimented with brushes like the Kombu, which are really good at roughing up your artwork. You can see where I have used it in various places. You need to experiment with the opacity and also vary your own pressure on your pencil to see how the paint drops. Lighter pressure with quick strokes will give you a better effect with this brush. As a general rule, you will need higher opacity where you are trying to drop more block paint. Where you want it to be looser, you will need more transparent strokes. Experiment with your hand action too. Quick, vigorous strokes will give you different brushwork to something slower and more deliberate. Being a confident artist will help you here. If you are a beginner, just keep practicing and your confidence will grow. To wrap up, remember this isn't about making a perfect copy of Zorn's painting. It is about training your eye. By focusing on values, shapes, edges and temperature, you'll learn how a master thinks, not just how he paints. Take what you've learned here, experiment, make mistakes, and most importantly, apply these ideas to your own work. If you would like to come and paint with me in oils, join my workshop on the 3rd of July. You'll find the link in the description below. There are also more details of lesson opportunities on my website, Sarah Halliday Art. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss future painting tips. Thank you for watching and see you next week.